Well, hello, that's me again. Today is January 9th, 2025. It is whatever it is, Thursday, right? So it is Thursday. And yeah, the title of the whole video which I posted right now is obviously Canadian Bacon 2.0. I don't like Michael Moore. I mean, he is a fat, obnoxious, and well, I'm not gonna go further in adjectives describing him, but point is he definitely created one of the comedic masterpieces, which is of course Canadian Bacon with the John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, and all that, and the introduction to the movie is wonderful. So we have now Mr. Trump and other people in his coming administration thinking that they can, yeah, basically, attach Canada to the United States. And obviously now everybody is showing this now famous meme by Trump, well, not Trump himself, but from his administration, of the Canada becoming the part of the United States. Whatever, obviously, it's not gonna be state if to imagine that it really joins the United States. It's too huge for that, so it has to be broken up, I believe, in several other states. But it's all jokes, and I think so. Trump is trolling trolling Canadians, and obviously the beach fight between Musk and Trudeau, who actually left the Canadian politics, is a classic type of the beach fight, So it's lovely to observe, and let me put it this way: Russians have this saying that let's root for the both teams. This is exactly what is happening, because obviously it's absolute circus with no any kind of ethical limits or what have you. Let them fight. Yeah, sure. It's all becoming absolute insanity. And even if it's trolling, of course, on part of Trump, which I can totally understand, there are some other things which may not necessarily be, part of the trolling. There is only so much of the joke in a joke, if you wish. And whatever Trump says about, for example, Canada, or renaming the Gulf of Mexico into American Gulf, or whatever the hell he wants to rename it to, is actually very much symptomatic of the I immediately want to stop all kinds of the BS about that. Oh, they're rich people, let them have it. The tragedy of the in LA fires is just absolutely incredible, and it is in very many important respects is symptomatic and symbolic of what is happening with the United States. And obviously, when you look at the parts of the burned down Pacific Palisades properties, it's heartbreaking. No matter what you think about those people, but this is what they lost, and evidently there will be not much coverage of the actually by insurance, and this is horrible. But most symptomatic and symbolic, of course, of all this horrendous event which is happening in LA, of course, the Hollywood sign. It's not burning, but as you can see yourself, there. The fire is very close there, and in some sense it is also symptomatic and symbolic, because it essentially manifests itself as the essence of the American politics of the last 30 years, which was clearly by Hollywood alone. It was PR, it was BSing people in believing something which has never been there, and it's all Hollywood. It's all make-believe. It is all pretense, and this is the situation right now in LA, and it's of course not very good, and yeah, that's horrible, honestly. And the fact that there are some rich or well-off people are getting, their houses burned, I see no reason to, be giddy about it or experience that kind of acute schadenfreude thing. But in many respects, it is what is symbolic about a current combined West, and this is what Mr. Trump and his incoming administration are going to face, and they are already facing it. And we will start with the fact that, which is, of course, apart from this Canada trolling, which is much more serious. And here is the point. As you read my latest book, I quote my good friend, Russian economist and political observer Alexander Rogers, who has a sharp tongue, and he stated correctly that the United States doesn't do strategy, it does business plans. And that's absolutely true, because obviously there is no understanding what strategy is, and all those professors in strategy in national defense universities, what have you, you cannot do strategy when you do not understand the subject you're dealing with. And so what is important here, we have now this, you know what, Kellogg. Mr. Trump's personal envoy to Russia, and Mr. Kellogg, in a typical business manner, for some reason he thinks that you can plan it. Obviously you can't, and so Trump's Ukraine's aid sets a 100-day timeline to end conflict. Okay, remember it was 24 hours. Now, US President-elect Donald Trump's incoming special envoy has said that he hopes to mediate a resolution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict within 100 days, starting on the inauguration day on January 20. This is not strategy. This is pure and simple business plan, which of course, as usual, will fall through. I mean, it will not happen. And so he talks about, I know I'm on the clock. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Kit Kellogg told Fox News on Wednesday, I would like to set a goal on a personal level, on a professional level. I would say let's set it at 100 days and move your way back. So, and what is he is talking about? He is not trying to give something to Putin or to the Russians. He is actually trying to save Ukraine and save their sovereignty. That's really, really lovely. This is so, I mean, so cute. And he's going to make sure that it is equitable and that it is fair. Well, obviously, the fact that whatever Mr. Trump and his personal envoy, Mr. Kellogg, plan is not going to happen. And this is not going to happen because, obviously, well, evidently, forget about Trump. He has zero background in military, and he doesn't understand the actual strategy or applied geopolitics. He is very good at the, you know what, all kinds of the showbiz type, you know, grandiose statements and gestures, but he is not military specialist, and I don't think so he understands what he is facing. And here is a very rare, how to put it, it's by Russian Jew. I mean, he immigrated to Finland some time ago, and look what he writes for this one of those fanboys, you know, collection of or sites or what have you, outlets, which is 1945, which is very symptomatic that they call themselves 1945. It was the year in which this Red Army, the Soviet Union, finally smashed the Nazi Germany and Axis forces. Of course, with the help of their allies, but I mean, it was primarily Russians. And so here we have this by Arkady Moshes, whatever his name. He is part of this, you know, the collection of those, you know, pseudo political observers on the all kinds of the talk shows and publications, and he has absolutely zero military background. But he writes that Ukraine war, why a ceasefire may be impossible for now. I don't think so it's possible at all. Not for now, not for in the nearest future, because Russians have no reasons to stop and, you know, doing what they are doing. And in this particular case, Mr. Kellogg or Mr. Trump are absolutely irrelevant here. And he talks about the very question of whether the Trump administration will be able to achieve peace of Ukraine in Ukraine is premature. At this moment, it is only possible to hope for a ceasefire. If a ceasefire is sustained, then yeah, that you can kind of prolong it. But here he says correctly, but the odds are that even a ceasefire is a bridge too far. And he elaborates a little bit, and I applaud him for this elaboration, where he's the pivotal, the critical point of his elaboration is that the reason is simple. Moscow is not ready for any compromises. It plays for victory, not a draw. Success can be achieved on the battlefield or at the negotiating table, but it must be unquestionable. In Putin's view, Ukraine needs to be defeated and the West has to admit Ukraine's and its own defeat publicly. Absolutely correct. And it's not only that. And he makes also a very good observation, which I am talking about from the start. And since the start of my videos, and which is 3 years ago, and the start of the special military operation, many people forget. Mr. Trump was the one who essentially destroyed the diplomatic relations between Russia and United States by closing every single consulate and other diplomatic outposts of Russia in the United States, violating all kinds of their basically declarations and diplomatic statutes and things like that. Then, of course, he was the guy who opened the floodgates of arming Ukraine in earnest, starting from these holy javelins, which is a pathetic weapon system actually, and all kinds of other things which started to pour into Ukraine on his watch. And the watch of basically his whole administration was nothing more than a collection of the neocons and shysters, and basically Trump was overpowered. He was essentially boxed into whatever, he was sitting in his Oval Office, basically doing tweets, and that's about it. He completely succumbed to both their neocon lobby and Ukrainian lobby in his administration. So, and as Arkady Moshes correctly states, and I am on record with this non-stop, Putin and Russia owe Trump nothing. He is nobody for Russians. That's what, he's sort of Russian Zhirinovsky in some respect, So the kind of court jester, pardon me. And, well, Trump is the court himself. But the point is, for some reason, the guy, Mr. Trump, thinks that he is so irresistible and shiny and, overpowering that somehow, as he lies constantly, that Putin sits in Kremlin and just nervously wait when Trump becomes the president, and then he wants to meet him. No, Putin doesn't want to meet him. How many times Russians have to, debunk his statements, which he lies openly, self-aggrandizing himself. But the point is, Mr. Kellogg should also keep in mind that this lieutenant general, when he comes in trying to negotiate something with Russians will have on their part generals sitting there which will make Mr. Kellogg look like the tactical level officer with no understanding of the modern operations and the balance of power. There will be Russian generals who commanded armies Kellogg could only dream about. But here we are, and so they think that somehow they can change it. And hence comes this Trump's, what is called PR offensive, if you wish, in reality trolling, but as I already stated, there is so much joke in joke. The rest of it could be very serious and pursue a lot of, so to speak, hidden, if you wish, objectives. And the case here is precisely what Mr. Moshes, and in this piece in 1945, states clearly, which I agree entirely. That is why I'm saying it's a good thing you read it, is because defeat of the United States already happened. It's just a matter of, as I constantly ad nauseam repeat the thing, that it's arrangement phase and how it will be essentially formalized in some kind of, whatever the agreement statements and what have you. But Russians are not keen now to allow the United States to save much of its very little remaining face. And because of that, suddenly we have Mr. Trump saying all those ridiculous things like, basically taking Canada and making it, United States territory, or renaming, the Gulf of Mexico, or the big one, of course, Greenland. And here, where this joke is not quite joke, to put it mildly, and let me explain why a little bit. And this has everything to do with what Russia does in Arctic. And look at this attentively, what is important about Greenland. And of course, if you discount such idiotic statements like, for example, this is, as already stated, April 18th, 2024, it's responsible statecraft, allegedly realist outlet. The accession of Sweden and Finland means the alliance truly dominates the region, agitating already frail relations with Russia. Well, actually, it's not, and Finland and Sweden is just nothing in the larger scheme of things. But and he's talking about this, Alex Little, about how Russians are nobodies, and we're gonna go there and show them those damn Ruskies how to dominate Arctic. Of course, this is all wet dreams by the nincompoop who has no idea what he's talking about. And regarding force projection capabilities, the American-dominated NATO nuclear submarine fleet outmatches the opposing northern fleet of the Russian Navy. Well, the guy is obviously full of what, because he knows absolutely nothing about naval warfare and balance of power in the Arctic. And so when you look attentively at those things and you put them together, with this, Mr. Trump whole, as now everybody laughs at the Monroe Doctrine. Remember Monroe Doctrine? It is obviously the fact that United States, in 1828, I believe it was, that it was created and written, so to speak, the Monroe Doctrine, to provide the kind of, modus vivendi between Europe, old, and new, and the United States and Europe. That United States says, we're not going to interfere in your affairs, you're not going to interfere in our affairs in the Western Hemisphere. But in reality, of course, it was all just posturing. But, and here comes the question. If you look attentively at Greenland and at this thing, you see this, what the initial point between Greenland and Canada is called the Baffin Bay. What is the Baffin Bay? Baffin Bay is actually the sea on its own. It's a huge body of water in the narrowest part between Canada in the entrance. It is 212 miles wide and it's more than 500 miles long. So it's a big body of water. And as you can see yourself, the range here, which is, for example, around 5,000 kilometers, is approximately goes to the southern Siberia and southern Russia, where some of the Russian silos of including, for example, Stilet, which is the carrier of Avangard, are located. And this is where the United States Navy strategic missile submarines of a higher class can shoot their Trident 2D5 missiles in case of war. And guess what? It suddenly is not very big, not large distance. It's around 5,000 kilometers. If you go even further and take a look at this range, and you can see yourself, so it's not really, if you launch even from the Baffin Bay, which is fairly secured, for example, St. Petersburg industrial area, look at this. It's merely, it's less than 4,000 kilometers. And this is, by the way, where this Ted Pastol's, mythology and fairy tales come in about this allegedly, basically, magical fuse, which allegedly will change the warfare, which it doesn't change anything. But the point is that the reason this fuse was installed on those 150 kiloton usually MIRVs of the Trident missile is because they will be shooting this in case of war, God forbid, in the nuclear exchange on the suppressed trajectories, and because of this the accuracy will drop precipitously, unlike when you do it by the high parabolic, which is, ballistic trajectory. And because of that, they need, when they miss the range, they need this fuse which can theoretically explode the nuclear device over the silos or leads of the Russian strategic missiles, which is not going to harm them that much anyway. But yeah, whatever it takes to kind of do the palliative therapy and, to address this butt hurt. So there you go. But when you look attentively and think about it, which is now suddenly even Denmark, which owns actually Greenland, states that, oh yeah, we understand that Greenland has their own aspirations and becoming independent. That changes a lot, and because obviously you can place there, then all kinds of bases, because the coastal areas, while they definitely also are very cold and pretty much most of the time covered with ice and snow, still there are airstrips there. You could be surprised. So, and you can do a lot of things with that, making Baffin Sea, where obviously Russian submarines also come in hunting for their American strategic missile submarines. It's becoming much, much more difficult, for example, if you have the patrol aviation, which has the airports or jump strips there, and this is just one of the benefits. And of course, you have the ropes and canal or things of this nature through which you can basically get into the Arctic waters of the Arctic Ocean. And there's a lot of benefits apart from the all kinds of the rare earth metals and other ores which you can mine in Greenland. So, well, guess what? And we have now these guys. And here where I have to become American nationalist. For all problems of the United States, for all its shortcomings, and for all of it losing arms race to Russia and losing badly, here we have the situation when you have this guy, the clown, of the country which is clownish in itself now, we have this thing. Let's imagine, let's play the American chauvinist. And I'm becoming American chauvinist right now because indeed I'm actually insulted with this. The French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot deployed a mix of the two approaches, saying on French radio that it is out of the question that the European Union would let other countries attack its sovereign borders, whoever they are, but adding that he did not believe Trump would actually invade Greenland. Let me put it this way. If Trump would decide to invade Greenland, let's imagine this, and again, it's not 100%, excluded. Who knows, United States desperately needs some kind of Grenada 2.0, some little, locality where to go and win something, at least. I can tell you one thing. French should understand that they are nobodies and they can do literally nothing to prevent United States if it decides to invade Greenland, because they are militarily nobodies, literally zeros. Will France deploy its nuclear deterrent against the United States? Well, France will cease to exist very fast. And that's the thing which those idiots in European Union still do not understand, that damn chihuahuas, militarily, they are dwarfed by the United States, while the United States, on its turn, already lost the arms race to Russia. So there you go, that's your comparison. Yet you have those people doing, making all those statements. But you know what? For example, from Russian point of view, it's, as I already stated, let's root for both teams. There is another incredible, wonderfully funny and very popular term, zhabogadyukin in Russian. It's difficult to explain what it is, but it literally, it's snakes and toads, basically, and how they do to each other all kinds of nasty things. But the point is that I don't even know why those Europeans think that they have anywhere without will to stop United States. If it really decides to invade Greenland, what's going to happen? Nothing. And what, French gonna attack United States? Yeah, sure. It's color me surprised not, So, and all this is just absolute posturing, BSing, and it basically shows you the level of the decomposition of the combined West. And if we go further and take a look at essentially what is also at stake here, here we are. This is the thing which United States is terrified of, and this is Northern Sea route, as you can see yourself, much, much shorter than, for example, Suez Canal, which at some point of time may become Israeli's part, and Europeans will try to control it. Good luck with that, let them kill each other over this. And that's not just it. Look at this. We have there institute which studies there all kinds of the situation, Center for High North Logistics. And as you can see yourself, overview of transit navigation on the Northern Sea route, update September 30, 2024. And this is very critical about what the other article which was written, and again in this responsible statecraft, that one of the guys there says, okay, let's imagine that Trump goes in and he lifts the sanctions from Russia, because obviously one of the carrots he can offer is the participation in the, the Northern Sea route reaching its full potential. Obviously, you can go to my blog. I wrote extensively about it. Obviously, it's the wet dream. Obviously, and Russians have no inclination to allow any kind of Western country to, achieve Northern Sea route of its potential, which is, of course, absolutely, wet dream. It's fantasy, delusion, in fact. But look at this. If you take a look attentively at the movement of the goods, you can see yourself what is the northern route for China and Russia. As of September 30 last year, we recorded 79 transit voyages and an estimated 2.38 million tons of transit cargo. If our observations are correct, this is already a new record of transit cargo at the Northern Sea route. In order to say this, well, they talk about they need more statistics, and yeah, they're probably on the lower side, but look at this. If you between the countries, transit voyages, it's primarily Russia and China moving their goods. For example, out of 79 transit voyages, 28 proceed from Russia to China, another 26 from China to Russia. The remaining 25 voyages went between two Russian ports and essentially inter-Russian transits. And in order to do that, you have to have, obviously, what is, look at this, which United States doesn't have, and really no other country in the world has. The fleet of the nuclear mighty icebreakers, and I mean, it's just not even fair to compare this, and Russians produce them and build them as the hotcakes. And so the last one of being Chukotka, which is already basically ready for the plant or shipyard tests. So, and Russians also produce or build those combat icebreakers, which not only state of the art, but they carry also the caliber missiles. And yeah, this try to fight these guys, on the surface. And in general, when you look at the Arctic, it's not even fair to compare what is the Russian Arctic program and all other NATO or Western countries combined. And that is why it is funny when you go to the New York Times and you read this type of the suddenly changed, the whole mood, the whole, so to speak, outlook. Look what they write. It's yesterday, and it's funny. And they say Russia-Ukraine war, it's yesterday, and a bitter and bloody war in Ukraine has devastated the country. Well, not quite, but yeah, Russians can devastate it if it comes down to it, but Russians try to avoid, by all means, any kind of the civilian victims and or civilians, and actually they do not kill all of it, I mean, talking about whole industrial potential, only some of it. And here they say that, and they pretend it as if it is a bad thing, when in reality they do not understand that Russians don't care. Further isolated Russia from the West. Well, if New York Times had normal people working for it, which it does not, I mean, including all those bimbos which work, for example, in Russia, for some reason, I would revoke their accreditation. They are nothing but propaganda whores. So that Russians actually are very satisfied and very content with the fact they are really isolated from the West, because the West is not what it used to be. And even when it used to be, much of it, as this Hollywood sign, was actually mythology, all kinds of PR and propaganda. Not to say that we are not, our civilization is not shaped by the combined West in the last 500 years. It is. but it's over now. And then there is the other thing, which is absolutely amazing, which I cannot allow to, basically pass. And let's start with the a little bit back to history, if you wish. And here we have that, United Kingdom Defense Ministry. They talk about in the last year, actually soon 2 years, that Russian reservists could be using shovels for hand-to-hand combat in Ukraine due to a shortage of ammunition. The United Kingdom Ministry of Defense says, and many people already pointed, just paid attention to the fact that. I love to make, fools out of those idiots who pretend that they know something. But when we go and talk about the composition of the, for example, British military, and it is decomposing, it is amoral, it's, we're not going to go there in full, so to speak, set of the adjectives. Here we have now this news. Well, that's the only thing that British can do. They cannot do the real fighting. They do not have the real army, but they have this. And military brass had no interest in investigating alleged war crimes by the SAS. An inquiry has heard UK Special Forces had golden pass to get away with murder. And British SAS operatives were given a golden pass, and there are now the whistleblowers who are coming out for their greatest credit. And the officer's statement was given behind closed doors. And guess what are they talking about? They were just killing civilians, unarmed, any way they wanted. A junior officer told the inquest that all fighting age males were killed in these raids, regardless of whether they were armed or not. SAS personnel sometimes carried weapons to draw beside dead bodies after the killings in order to make them appear as combatants. Prisoners were sometimes executed after they had been restrained, the witness recounted. Doesn't surprise me in any way. The only thing which United Kingdom military can do is basically sabotage terrorism and things of this nature. They are, quoting Colonel McGregor, a Lilliputian force with zero military capability, and they still pretend that they matter. They don't. I mean, this is the country itself is turned into hellhole now in totalitarian state. And even Elon Musk, he basically tries to remove Mr. Starmer from his position, but it doesn't matter. They will produce another inbred cretin, who will become the prime minister. But the point is that if you go and look attentively at this famous publication, which tells you to what degree the whole thing degenerated. And so suddenly Royal Navy Submarine Service is plagued by gangbangs, drug dealers, and loot officers who celebrate rape lists as crews share top trumps style cards of worst offenders. Whistleblower says the Royal Navy Submarine Service is plugged, so they basically repeat it. The new allegations exposed today by Mail Online have shocked a former nuclear submarine captain who said the British public will be rightly appalled by the levels of depravity and failures in leadership. But this is not just the military is merely a reflection of the society and the government of the country. This is what essentially the United Kingdom government is. And if you go to the United Kingdom British Defense Ministry website, you will see yourself that actually in a year 15,000 left. United Kingdom regular armed forces, only 12,000 enlisted. So they're already down 3,000 or whatever, 840. And they are, they're basically just, decomposing. And this is all kind of symptomatic from the fires around the Hollywood sign to basically Trump, planning to attack Canada and join basically acquire Canada to become the territory of the United States. Not that I understand some Canadians wouldn't mind at all, but the point is they are decomposing. It's unbelievable. And Greenland is the part of this, so to speak, package because Trump, no matter what you say about him, and I voted for him, make no mistake, they need any kind of the PR victory because this is the only thing they know how to do. They are militarily paper tigers. And so, what are you going to do? Let's, acquire Canada. Let's get Canada. Let's get Greenland. Let's rename this thing. Now the Panama. Do not forget the Panama. Trump also wants to evidently, take the possession of the Panama Canal. And what can I say? I mean, we live in the complete circus. Or, if you wish, in the absurdity on the level of the Canadian Bacon 1.0, and we slowly becoming the Canadian Bacon 2.0. What can I say? Get a popcorn and enjoy while you can. And so this is everything I wanted to tell you today, guys. And as always, in conclusion, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. Have a nice rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.